Hey David,
Well, Tomas, how's things? How's everybody else?
everything going well and you?
Oh, I can't complain. I'm still recovering from my weekend in London, so I haven't been too sharp all week, to be honest. But I'm remembering now I only go out once a year.
How it was, London?
I was very good. Like, it was a brilliant weekend. Like, it was worth sort of the 3 days hangover. But yeah, I won't be in a rush back for a while.
It was raining, no, it was sun.
No, it was raining. I don't think it rained, or it was sunny. I don't think it rained once. So it was
Yeah,
a nice rooftop bar in the hotel, and also it was lovely, like sitting in sunshine, looking over London. But
I don't go to London since like probably before COVID, like 3 years probably.
Yeah, I think it's yeah. I think it was near 4 years since I was over, which is a sin, like, 'cause it's only an hour's flight from me, so I should go over more often. But
Yeah, I really enjoy London.
no, it's a great city. It's an incredible place. Like, just the size of it, like the scale of it, it's
Yeah,
mind blowing.
you have a lot of stuff to do, like restaurants, bars, like
Yeah, yeah. No, there's no shortage out there. But typical Irish, we tend to sort of stay in the same area. Like, we don't venture too far away from.
you get tired, right?
Yeah, you get a bit scared if we get more than like 500 meters away from where we're staying.
Okay. Are you recording, right? Or it's me? I think it's in your computer.
Yeah, it's recording for me.
Perfect.
We'll give it another minute or two on it just to see if there's a few more people coming, and then we'll crack
Yeah.
on.
I'll probably do a trade recap on DAX because I took a minus 1% loss on New York. I usually don't trade New York, but yeah, I was in front of the computer, so yeah, it took a loss. But I probably will make a recap in this session, and it's easier.
Ah, yeah, very good. It's always good to hear your thought process and how you see things, and particularly with the DAX, because I know the liquidity sort of fascinates me a bit at the moment from we were talking about it. So I'm always sort of interested to see your views on that with the DAX, because it's like sort of thing with EU. It's obviously nowhere near as big a consideration, but it is always something that you can sort of look to
Yeah.
improve on as well.
I saw Matt's EU trades and today, and yeah, based on the liquidity, it will be impossible to get involved. So that's why on EU, personally, when I was trading, was not focused too much because yeah, different pairs, and if you start putting liquidity the way I use on EU, probably miss a ton of opportunities. Well, you know that price like to like reach the seasonal and then go instead of, for example, GBP USD that sweep everything and only then commit. So it's different. So
Yeah, no, I still have PTSD from whenever I traded GU, whenever we were learning this strategy. So from constantly getting swept whenever price would just sort of whipsaw 50 pips in 2 minutes and take out. But that's obviously why, is because we didn't have the same understanding of liquidity as we sort of do now.
yeah.
Because it is so different to GU, or to EU, sorry. Do you want me to go first, Thomas, with the I just
The same for me. What you prefer for music?
I try. I'll go first. Or seeing, I think
Okay.
I haven't really been trading this week, so I think if you trade recap and stuff, so you'll have a bit more to share. So I might as well get my bit out of the way.
Okay.
I'll focus mostly on AU, just on a kind of mat doing the
Yeah.
recaps in AU. I'll just sort of maybe
He
I'll
did, he did a recap today as well.
yeah. So I'll just do like I'll focus sort of this week on AU, and then maybe just take a real quick run over the price action in AU today, and then I'll hand it over to you. So can everyone see the screen all right?
Yeah.
So the weekly $0, sorry. Um the weekly obviously is bearish. I've had the breaks. This was the most recent break of structure, and then we've had the pullback into the premium of the weekly leg. Didn't quite mitigate the extreme pivot, but obviously we know it doesn't have to. We mitigated the EQ there. So now it looks as though the pullback's over, and basically we're going to run the week low. We had a bit of a reaction to this weekly demand that caused the bullish chalk, but obviously it's only a chalk. Swing structure takes precedent. So we got a bit of reaction there. You can see the sort of bullish candle that week, then it failed the following week. So I'd say at this point, it's very likely over the next, maybe even this week, that low will be run on the weekly. Then on the daily, the range is the same. So this was the swing high, this was a swing low, and then obviously following the break of structure, this was all the complex pullback. We mitigated this supply in the premium. Obviously it's a flip, so a very clean flip zone, because you can see we reacted to the supply and then the reaction failed. So the larger internal is bullish because we had this IBOS, but recently I was sort of placing more weight on this sort of minor pullback here, because this is like the demand range that caused price to close above there. So it is pretty significant. So once we got the close below that, I was sort of fairly confident that the week low was going to be run. And then you can see basically we got the close below, and then we pulled back into, there's a little flip zone there as well, just there. So you can see we pulled back into that, and then basically the bearish order flow was being continued. You can see we took out this low, got a close below, come into this minor demand at the extreme, got a bit of reaction, then the reaction failed. So sort of this morning I was sort of looking to see if we would get maybe a pullback into this supply and then potentially run the week low, but obviously didn't get too deep pullback, just kept hanging. The 4 hour then, it's obviously bearish as well, so everyone's lying bearish at this point, so it's very likely that the bearish trends are going to sustain until we run the week low. So we had another break of structure here. I think this was Monday's price action, was basically this pullback here. So we got the break of structure, and then it was basically came into this pretty minor demand at the extreme. I was waiting to see this morning if we were going to get maybe a decent reaction from this and maybe pull up to mitigate this prior range, which obviously lines up quite nicely with the EQ of that zone and the EQ of the leg, but it obviously pulled into the sort of minor wicks and kept tanking from there. So yeah, the 4 hours obviously bearish. At this point, it's unlikely we're going to get too significant reaction from this demand. This is the week, daily and weekly low. So you can see we're very close to it now. So it's very likely that is going to be run without maybe getting the deeper pullback on the 4 hour. But obviously you never know. I think there's a slight possibility of it happening, but obviously we would try to react, not predict. So I'll sort of go through the M15, sort of how I was viewing it over the week. Monday was obviously the US bank holiday, so we basically had this very corrective pullback, which is no surprise. Like you don't really you expect pretty low volume, where price is just basically struggling to break the highs on the US bank holiday, because obviously dollar volume was lower. So during Asia we had this bearish IBOS, so I had the internal bearish. This was a bullish break structure for me. We got the close above the high, so I had the M15 is bullish, but on the 4 hour it was a pretty clear liquidity grab there. So the 4 hour usually takes precedence, so you had to understand that while so it was a bullish break structure on the M15, on the 4 hour was a pretty clear liquidity grab. So even though the expectation is that this will basically, it could do that, obviously we don't have the confirmed bullish trend until we get the double break structure, which obviously would have been there. So I had the M15 as bullish, but obviously I was aware that it was a liquidity grab in the 4 hours, so it wouldn't have been beyond the realms of possibility if the M15 was to switch bearish. So coming into Monday, we basically reacted to the very extreme supply at the extreme of the this was the strong M15 low at the time. So it's pretty messy price action during London. I'll just use bar replay. So this was obviously sort of your protected internal high. So I was expecting that price was going to come in here and then potentially tank and run the protected low just on account of the internal trend being bearish. But then you can see we sort of reacted to the supply range, then we pushed down during London, and then we failed to take out the low, which is obviously not a good sign if you're bearish. And then we pushed up, swept the high into basically the refined wick, and then pushed down So again, it's typical sort of bank holiday price action, is pretty indecisive. So we swept the high there, and then we swept the low here as well, which again, it's just pretty much a sign of indecision in the market. So there's no trades for me really during London. I'll drop down to M1 just to think there was, yeah, it was just pretty indecisive price action. There was no real M15 demand for this long, which is why I had no interest in it really. I'll just zoom out to M15. You're basically getting along from that M15 demand, but that M15 demand didn't even cause a bullish chalk. So it's an incredibly weak demand zone. I didn't even have it drawn on. But I know some people were looking at that there and took a loss. And then obviously when we swept the high into the refined M15 pivot, you could have looked for an entry, but it was pretty much in and out. And yeah, probably could have entered an extreme, but obviously it wasn't tagged. So there's nothing during London really, just pretty indecisive price action with price sweeping the high and sweeping the low. And then coming into New York, we basically swept the internal high, which again, had we got the internal structure is still technically bearish, but yeah, we wicked the high, which isn't the best, but then you could have looked for a buy within this demand, but because it did cause price to wick the high. But again, this leg is weak because it failed to take out this high. It's just not the best place to be looking for an entry. So let's put it on. I think there you could have, yeah, it was no tag on it. You can see it's pretty clean entry model, sort of liquidated equal lows. There's absolutely no inducement in the leg in the M15, so which is why you want to see a pretty clear. Yeah, you can see it was just a clear push in the M15, so you want to see a pretty clear liquidation, which we got there, and then got the chalk, but there would have been no tag with a 2-pip stop. And then that was the only potential entry during New York, and I think eventually it pushed up and chopped around a bit, which again, US bank holiday, and then eventually we got the close above the internal high, so the M15 internal switch bullish again, and yeah, at this point, internal and swing are both technically bullish. That's your bullish IBOS, that was your bullish break structure, so they were both aligned. But the 4 hour just wasn't massively convinced, just because we had this sweep liquidity during NFP, and sweep liquidity and then push back down. So I just wasn't massively convinced that the M15 bullish trend was going to hold. Then got the bullish IBOS. I'll go forward to Tuesday, London, just to, yeah, this was, so this was the most recent internal break structure for me, and you can see price sort of came down during Asia and wicked it and mitigated some of it in that wick. So at this point, the internal structure is technically still bullish for me. It's pretty significant sweep liquidity as well. So coming into London, I was basically waiting to see, we got the bullish chalk there, and it looked as though we were going to get the bullish flip, basically where we got the reaction to this supply and then the reaction failed, but we didn't get the close above, so basically turned out to be a sweep liquidity. So that demand then I wasn't really interested in looking for a buy from that. And then yeah, price tanked. So then at this point we got the bearish IBOS, so the internal structure had switched bearish. So at this point I'm more than happy to look for buys because I had a pretty bearish bias based in the 4 hour anyway. So the obvious POI to look for was this one here, lovely zone, led to the IBOS, swap liquidity, exactly where you want to, the sort of POI you want to be looking from. But then price didn't pull back that far. Here we got a bit of a push down, didn't quite close below, so it's questionable whether that is valid supply for you. But when there's a decent amount of bearish momentum, price is not going to pull back that deeply. So yeah, it's more than okay to be aggressive from there. And then yeah, we pull back into it and push down, and then eventually we got the bearish break of structure, so 4 hours aligned with M15 again. But there was potential entry within here. Yeah, this was during London, so it came into the M15 POI. You can see there was a minor liquidation, but this or there was a minor chalk there, but there's no real, it's like you could say that there was liquidation, but didn't really achieve that much. And then this here was just basically one big sideways price action. So at that point, it looked as though price going to push higher, but then we got the pretty clear sweep there, and then got the couple of flips, and then you can see the V shape on the chalk. So that there was a nice entry to try and play the bearish momentum, but again, as is quite typical with the AU, price just tanked and didn't give us an entry. And then coming into New York, had my eye on this here POI. It was the POI that caused the break of structure. It was the one that caused price to close below that low. So they're also worth keeping an eye on. Just like this. And then I think this was during the London lull, 11 o'clock. We come into it. There was a potential entry, but it was quite aggressive. So you can see we come into the POI. There's no real clear liquidation. You could argue that high, and then very minor high there. But you got the chalk, so it is valid tender there if you want to be aggressive during the London lull, and then it ultimately ended up holding, and it would have played out quite nicely. Now, whenever I was coming to my desk at around 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, sorry, we were sitting here. So at this point, I was basically expecting that the equal highs would be liquidated, and then we would sort of maybe hit the refined M1 POI within there, and then perhaps look for an entry. But it didn't happen, and price basically just kept tanking. So there was no trades during New York for me. So you got another bearish IBOS, and then we sold off quite nicely. Again, there was potentially a very aggressive one within that M15 POI, but it's not really something I'd take, to be honest, because it's just, you can say it flipped that demand, and then you can just see it's the little inside bar that caused price to cause the chalk. So it's valid, makes sense relative to the structure, but it's just a bit aggressive for me because it didn't sweep liquidity. It's only an inside bar. You could have come up and mitigated that extreme and used the inside bar as liquidity, but it makes sense why it played out. And that was pretty much New York. And then fast forward to today, coming into London. So coming into London, we'd come into this 4-hour demand here that I highlighted earlier, sort of at the extreme. So it was possible we were going to see a decent reaction from here, maybe up to the EQ of the 4-hour leg, but at the same time, everything is heavily bearish. So you have to factor that into your thinking. But coming in. So see, we had the nice sweep liquidity, then came into the supply, got a bit of reaction. It's a flip, swap liquidity there was quite nice. Then the reaction failed, and we got the bullish chalk. So at this point, you can look at what you could have looked for that supply there, or you could have just basically refined it to the wick. Personally, I wasn't really trading this morning, but personally I would have focused on that one there, which ultimately failed. But you can see there was sort of the unmitigated wick, which swapped liquidity, which is always good. So at this point, it's valid to look for sells within this M15, because obviously M15 is heavily bearish. It's nested in 4-hour supply as well. It's possible this is basically just a liquidity grab into the M15 POI before we continue bearish. So it's valid to look for an entry in there. There was a potential setup, but it was a no tag on it, which I'll show you now. Yeah, so you got the chalk, but then price just tanked. There was no entry on the. So that's the chalk, and then there was no entry on the extreme. Had a nice sweep there as well. So then what you had then was this demand, which basically caused the flip and the chalk. Sorry. Obviously it's at the extreme as well. So it was valid to look for buys in here to sort of target the more complex pullback, but obviously it's more aggressive to do this because we had mitigated this M15 supply nested in the 4 hours, so it was possible that we had only had the bullish chalk to mitigate this and that we were going to continue bearish, but it was valid. And there was no tag on the confirmation entry. You can see we got the little shock there, and then price just absolutely took off, but didn't give an entry, unfortunately. But the risk entry would have been quite nice, which is quite similar to the one Matt took on EU. It's just a nice M1 extreme. At the extreme of the M15 POI, had a bit of inducement in front of it with this sort of bearish candle, nothing major. So yeah, I could have set a risk entry there. Personally, in this case, I wouldn't have been too keen to do that because we had mitigated the M15 supply. So I would have preferred to wait for the confirmation entry just to give me a bit more confirmation that price is going to hold, because with the M15 being bearish overall, could have just kept tanking. So that is that potential setup. And we just pushed up again. Yeah, it's like basically this is like the failed reaction to the supply. So again, this is your first sign that maybe demand is taking control, that this demand held and the reaction to the supply failed. But you're still in the 4-hour supply, so it is still quite aggressive to be buying against this. But I know there's some people looking at sells from here, which basically within the M15 POI. I wasn't really the biggest fan of this because the EQ of the POI, I think, had already been mitigated here and failed to take out this low, and this demand held. So at that point, I was thinking there's a good chance that the bullish momentum was going to continue. So I wasn't too keen on looking for sells from there. But again, if you want to be more aggressive, they are valid, particularly in anticipation of the 4-hour supply holding. But and I think there's another potential entry. Yeah, this was during the London lull. You got a lovely sweep, the equal lows there, mitigated this here. Again, another bit of inducement in front of it there. So this is all in anticipation of the 4-hour M15 pullback. I don't think it would have been tagged anyway if you even entered on the extreme. No, it definitely wouldn't have been a tag with a 2-pip stop anyway. And it was during the London lull, and personally, I'm happy enough to leave it, but you can see we just about tap it. Yeah, we just missed it, but then pushed up. So yeah, there's a few potential entries during London today. I was personally happy enough just to leave it, just because, as I say, I'm still recovering from my weekend away. So I just wanted to wait and see something clear. And at this point, there was nothing massively clear. It's like you could see supply was battling with demand. It wasn't massively clear which side was going to win. And then coming into New York, we mitigated this M15 POI. You can see it's the POI that caused this bearish IBOS. So it's within this range as well, which is always a nice confluence. It had a nice bit of inducement in front of it with the equal highs there. And then, yeah, it held. And then basically we got the bearish chalk just at the start of New York session. I was looking at this sort of sell to buy wick to see if price will pull in it to potentially give us an entry to maybe target the weekend turn a low, but it just missed it by a micro pip, I think. So the alert didn't go off, so there's no entry. And then yeah, we sort of swept the low, which again is potentially a bearish, or it's potentially a bullish confluence factor in that the supply did not have enough power to cause price to close below the low, but it could just be to facilitate basically even the mitigation of that wick. So it's a bit of, without an M15 shock or an IBOS, you don't really want to predict that. You can see, yeah, we pulled back and obviously mitigated the wick. It's sort of the area around the chalk, and then pushed down again. So there's no trades for me during New York on it. It didn't hit any POIs, and yeah, failed to close below the low then. So it remains to be seen. Given how bearish everything is, I would say price will keep tanking, and we, over the next few days, we'll probably take out this week low. But yeah, that's pretty much an overview of AU for the week. I haven't taken any trades on it. There were some potentially nice opportunities today, but I didn't get involved in them. Yeah, does anyone have any questions with AU this week, or any of the specific price action, or any of the topics that I touched on there that they want to? No. So I'll do a quick overview of EU today, just how I saw it. Sort of, I know Matt did the recap, so I'll not go into too much detail because I could never do it as well as Matt anyway. So yeah, the M15, I'll just go with the M15. This morning we had this sort of sweep liquidity. It caused a bullish M15 shock, decent amount of bullish momentum, and then sort of during Asia, we basically pulled back correctively into this demand that caused the shock. Technically got the break structure there with the close below, but it wasn't that massively convincing. And then coming into session, we got the bullish M15 shock. So at this point, you're thinking, right, maybe following this sweep liquidity at the time, that we might see a deeper pullback. The only issue with trading the shock alone, it's valid to look for buys and this sort of demand here, but you're sort of trading against the protected small internal high, which is there, which isn't ideal because yes, we got the shock, but it's possible we only shock to mitigate this supply and the price is going to roll over. So I wasn't really interested in it at that point. But then sort of we got the failed reaction and the bullish II boss. Then I was looking at this demand for an entry. So it's pretty much, I know Matt took the risk entry, which is something I'm sort of, whenever I compare my markups to Matt, it's something that I always notice that I pretty much never take risk entries, whereas they can be a very nice tool to have in the toolkit when you sort of use them in the right areas, like at the extreme of the M15 POI, swap liquidity, mitigated this POI here. So yeah, the risk entry inducement from a beautiful trade. I set the entry on the confirmation entry, but it just didn't come back and tag me in. Basically, you got the chalk with the wick break, and then I was basically looking for price to tag me in there with the 2 pip stop in the EQ, but it didn't happen. And yeah, that was pretty much it on the. I didn't manage to catch trade, but I know Matt did a session recap on him in EU, so there's no point in me rambling on too much about it. New York, we basically swept this sort of internal high and then got sort of bearish IBOS. So more than valid to look for sales at that point to potentially run the week swing low. But you can see the price action is very messy. It's like there's a lot of wicks and sort of price struggling to break the low, etc. So it's just not the sort of price action that I'm particularly keen to trade. And I was happy enough to just sort of leave it and wait and see if we got the swing boss and then sort of work within a new range. But you can see we sort of swept the low there, and now we've got a huge amount of momentum on the upside, which obviously gives us a pretty clear IBOS. So sort of coming into tomorrow or Asia, if somebody's trade Asia, you can look to sort of trade from these sort of POIs. So there's a nice inside bar down there. It's obviously caused the IBOS, but obviously you have to be aware that we have this 4-hour supply up here, which price may continue bearish from there because obviously bearish overall, this was the supply that caused the bearish break of structure. So it's very possible that the M15 bullish IBOS may just be to facilitate the mitigation out there, and then we may continue lower. But that's sort of just how you have to be aware of. Yes, we've had a bullish IBOS in the M15, but like what's happening on the 4 hour? You know, what is the purpose of why is the M15 having the bullish IBOS? But yeah, be happy to look for sales from either of those 2 POIs in the 4 hour. But yeah, that's EU. It's like I know Matt does the session recaps on it, so there's not much point in me rambling on and wasting everyone's time. Does anyone have any specific questions about EU, or will I hand it over to Tomas for his DAX trade recap? Yeah. So I stop sharing my screen now, Tomas, and you can.
Okay, perfect. You have to let me share screens.
Is that you now?
Okay, yeah, it's perfect. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yeah, perfect, Tomas.
Okay, so let's just do this session recap. So basically, I took a trade here because I'm minus 1%, but it was definitely a trade that I'll take again. Only negatives is the fact that the session timing, it was like 3 minutes before midday, so it's not ideal, but I think it just for 3 minutes for the sake of 3 minutes. Yeah, on testing, I still take them, so I just follow the plan. So basically, on the daily time frame, we are now seeing this daily extreme, right? This daily extreme demand giving us some kind of a deep pullback. Of course, nothing is confirmed until we have at least this high goal, ideally this one. But you can see, and through demand, if I start drawing supply ranges here, we can see that only once this goes, we can assume that at least a deeper pullback is confirmed. Until now, price can go all the way up here and then continue down. But we can still take advantage of trades with lower time frames. So on the daily, just to understand that we are at daily extreme, nothing more. Okay, so this becomes interesting here. H4, okay, H4, like I said on the pre-London analysis, we have a sweep right of this major swing low. Price make a deep pullback, reach the premium, mitigate this supply, and we have a H4 chalk bearish, which means that now, just looking to the H4, keep it simple, okay? Just looking at H4, after this H4 chalk bearish, I was with the idea that this low can be targeted. So I was waiting for possible pullback, mitigate something here on M15, right? Give you M15 change of character, and then continue to the downside. This is one idea. Of course, we need to understand that we mitigate some relevant time frame demand. We sweep the low, and this can be just a sweep of these lows and continue higher. But just to keep it simple, after the H4 chalk here at premium, I was expecting this low to be targeted. On the H1, I like to use H1. You can see a very clean, right? The push-up right here. Price went to the upside and went down. So we have a clear shift here. You go bullish, then bearish. Okay, in line with this swing wave. So what I can expect coming into the session, I was expecting the pullback, right? And to mark supply and demand, we can see this supply on H1. There was no kind of inducement, a lot of liquidity above. And you can see on M15, we have, it's much clearer here on M15. We can see even on M15 that the big push to the downside. This on the Pepperstone provider, we have some kind of a gap here. So it's not the most clean price action. I marked this on the pre-London analysis as a possible POI, but to be much more conservative and wait for much more confirmation, like I said on the annotations, because we have a lot of liquidity above. We have high probability POIs above, and this POI have no inducement, okay? It's just a push to the downside. And if I use the premium versus discount, yeah, let's put the premium versus discount. Price went up into the POI, was slightly in the discount. It was not in the premium. So that was the reason why for me this is a POI that's much lower probability. Nevertheless, it's something that you can look to get involved if you have the right confirmation. So yeah, after this M15 shift bearish, and I personally will not be looking to follow these ranges and wait for the pullback to the premium. So if you are a little bit more aggressive than me, I personally don't focus on these trades because I'm happy to take less trades and high quality setups. But you can understand that, for example, after this sweep, right, and especially with the M15 being bearish, and then we have this sweep again, right, and price sweep back up. What we have this internal protected high low, because this low, right, creates a new high. So this low internally is strong, which means that it's very likely that this low will be respected to put the pullback to the EQ or premium prices. I personally not take longs here and didn't look to get involved because I prefer to focus on the high probability ones. Because sometimes you take, for example, a loss here or two losses, and when price reach here, you're already not mentally prepared to take the third trade. So I just focus on the high probability stuff. So price went to the upside, and at this stage, price reached the low probability supply. And my idea was, I'm not very confident in this supply, so I'll wait for more confirmation. And for example, an M15 change of character with a clean price action on the M1. So we have the M15 change of character. And this can be a little bit tricky because I personally like to use M5 as well and M1. And in this situation, if you drop to M5, it is up to you if you use this time frame. I personally like to have this kind of information. But on M5, what you have? We have this, let me just draw. It's easier with this one. And for example, you have this move down, right? The move up. And you can see that price here never close above. So you have this, right, as your M5 structure, because you have this break, and in this one, we never close above. So end up being this a strong, right, and this is weak. And we have M15 change of character, but at the same time, price reach the M5 strong internal leg with a nice up to the upside at this stage. Okay, so in this situation, I was not very, how can I say, I'm not very confident in looking for sells because of two reasons. The low probability POI, we have a lot of liquidity above. These POIs are much more probable. This is at discount. We have M15 change of character, but this M15 change of character can really just be used to put the pullback to mitigate something around the extreme of this M5, right? And to be more precise, I think it was, let me see. Yeah, it was this M8 demand, but you don't need to click through these timeframes, just M5. You understand that price mitigate the very extreme and then pop to the upside. So at this stage, if I'm going to look for any sells, I literally want to see a very, very clean liquidation, and I want to see M1 structurally shifting back bearish, indicating to this, for me, that this low is weak. And to know that this low is weak, we have at least, for example, something like that, which means that now we have this structural confirmation bearish in line with this, like, which means this low will likely to get trend. So I just want to let you know, guys, that I'm much more cautious. It's not simple as M15 shock, let's get involved, okay, because of a time frame picture. So price went to the upside, okay, and you can argue that we have here a change of character, but for me, even the change of character is down here because this is an inside bar. So for me, we don't have any kind of liquidation in this price action. So I was not interested to get involved, especially how these highs were formed. If price, for instance, forms something like this, let me just update. You have, for example, a push to the upside, liquidate all these highs, then go back again and go up. At this stage, I would be much more inclined to take a sell, because this will give me structural confirmation that this low is weak because it failed to take out the high. So basically, we would have something like this, which means this low is weak. So this is why I want to be a little bit more cautious. And for me, this is not any type of liquidation. Again, for example, on EU, I know, for example, the trade that Matt took today, if you wait for M1, I think Tom took the trade along. It's just a simple chalk and then you go. But yeah, on this pair, I'm much more concerned about liquidity than on EU. And the reason is this, because price respect. So at this stage, no trades for me. I just went back to the M15 and I have this POIs marked since the beginning of the session. High probability, liquidity above. So premium, everything perfect. So yeah, when price tapped into the POI, I dropped down to the M1. You can see the difference, right? This massive liquidation. We have this change of character here. Price went to the downside. I have I was looking for trade here, but it was very quick, and yeah, price never tagged me because we have change of character. And the moment you have the change of character, price went down, went up, almost tapped the zone and then go. I'm not sure if on other providers it actually mitigates the zone, but yeah, price went to the downside. No trades for me. Then I just jumped to the 15 again. I know what we have here. This is also important to understand. Okay, so you have this move to the downside, right? This bearish M15 leg. You can see here the breakout structure here. And then we have this push to the upside, right? The push down, push up, push down, the push up, push down, and then a push up again. And after this change of character here, M15, I can't assume that the low is going to get run. Of course, it's the first sign that this will happen, but we understand that if you focus, for example, on the most recent internal structure here, you have this and this. For me, this change of character just means that price is now putting the complex full X between this bullish internal leg, right? So even though I was looking for sells and I literally took a sell, I was also aware that nothing is confirmed. So this low is not weak until this low gets taken out. Yes, I can look for sells because price can just keep going down. And ideally, it happens from here because price reached the premium. But I also understand that nothing is confirmed because this low is still holding. But yeah, after this M15 change of character, price developed a little bit more. And at this stage, I marked this as the M15 POI, and I was looking for my sell here. It was around New York, so I don't trade New York this time. I was in front of the computer. For me, this was acting as possible inducement. For me, the structure was still bearish here. Not the structure itself, but the I internal structure, let's say, if you know what I mean. When price went to the upside, it liquidated all this inducement here. Okay, and then I jumped to the M1. And on the M1, it was for me, very, very clean entry. So we have the liquidation, we have the flip, right? Price pushed to the upside, swift liquidity, went down. And then I marked this POI and I entered towards like this. It was here. Okay, I entered. You can see here is the same. So it just went for a 5x chop, for example. We have even a flip here. Okay, I just click sell around this area. And 10 pips stop loss. 10 ticks is usually 1 pip. And I took a loss here. Then it is what it is. Makes sense for me. We have M15 change of character, the liquidation on M15. On M1, we can also see a clean liquidation. Here, we have the flip, swept liquidity, we have the change of character. Ideally, price mitigates something inside here. It never mitigates anything when looking left, but I don't need to mitigate anything as long as it's inside the M15 POI. Price then went much deeper and give us, at least I was not even in front of the computer. I was having lunch, but you have here the change of character. Here, the chop, right? Let's just annotate everything, button, turn, chop down. You have here the change of character, we have the flip. At this stage, for me, it swept liquidity. You can see, for example, here, it swept liquidity. This is the unmitigated POI. And price went to the upside. And I think it just, I'm not sure on my broker, but on this provider, it just missed by just a few pips here. So I'm not sure in other providers it's tag you in or not, but for me, that was the idea behind, and price went to the downside. So yeah, that was my trade, guys. I'm not sure if you have any questions. I will update, of course, the markup and explain everything through markups for you to see in the future if you want to cross-reference from this price action in the future. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know to answer. Write something on a chat or unmute yourself. Okay, so I believe that you have no questions.
Very clean entry, Tomas.
Yeah, it was very clean. Unfortunately, I'm not sure about the timing, to be honest, but yeah, I think it's only the one thing that I need to be aware, because I remember, I not remember, I know that on DAX before 8 a.m. I probably not take many trades, and I'm not sure on New York if, for example, midday I should take or not, but yeah, it just meet the criteria: mitigate M15 POI up to M15 jog, the liquidation. We have also here the liquidation, flip swap liquidity, and I took the trade here, so is what it is. Just following the plan. Okay, guys, don't have any questions? Yeah, don't be shy, just ask anything. You can just ask things about, not related to this trade. You can just ask questions about something on your journey that you are not sure or you want guidance. Yeah.
You usually, whenever somebody asks one question, that gets the ball rolling. So we just need somebody to ask something.
Like, if you guys don't have any questions, I think this will be probably the end of the session, and yeah, update to the. Okay, so I have questions. How do you stay in the flow consistently? Oh, this is interesting. David, you have a mindset workshop if you want to answer this one.
Jimmy, I feel like you're trolling me now because like I had a rough weekend there and I haven't made myself. I think you're just calling me out just to annoy me here. Because I am definitely not in the flow.
No.
I'm definitely not in the flow this week. I think like the biggest thing that like this week's taught me is just like you gotta like just your routines. It's like, you know, I'm pretty consistent with what I do every day, even at the weekends. Like, you know, I don't really go out that much on, and so I'm pretty consistent all the time. But just because it was completely thrown out last weekend, like it's easy, just it's a little slip on a Monday. You know, you do something different, and then it's easy once you get out of your routine. It's very
Yeah.
easy for everything to disintegrate, and then it's harder to get back into it. So I think it's just about being as consistent as possible. Like try and do the same, like try and get to the desk the same time every day. Go to the gym the same. Just try and be as consistent as you possibly can. That's the key for me. Like because like everything was flowing quite nicely until I went away at the weekend, and now I'm gonna have to sort of kick myself up the ass a bit to get back into it. But that's for me. Flow is just routine and sort of doing the same things consistently. But maybe Tomas might see it differently.
It's basically that. It's just how do you? Basically, what I like to do is track everything, my thoughts, the way I am feeling at every single moment during the session, and yeah, you just keep track with that. And often after like 1 month or 2 months, even 3 months, I can then look back for the days, for example, I didn't perform so well. I look, for example, to my journal. I cross-reference the journal and I can see that mentally I was not 100% because of some external factors. So yeah, next time that happens, next time that my thoughts become start to negatively influence my decisions, I can quickly remember that negatively affect my trading. So I just stop and I'm aware of that thoughts, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I expressed very well. Did you understand what I said? Or?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear Jimmy.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, like, so, I mean, I'm still trying to adjust. I mean, because I'm only 8 months into Photons and I'm doing actually pretty well. I'm working on my second funded account and I'm doing well. But like family comes and visits and, you know, I have 4 kiddos and a family. And so I'm having trouble, you know, staying in the flow trying to get right back into the routine of, you know, my markups, my analysis, and everything. So
you have like, can you work during the weekends or you are completely with?
Yeah, I usually dedicate that to my kids. I mean, yeah, so that's kind of in whatever projects. But I do have, I do try to spend a few hours on the weekends trying to stay with the content. But I was just, I'm currently reading or listening to a couple audiobooks that are, talking about mental resilience and toughness in regards to peak performance. And because this definitely is, trying to stay at peak performance with this on a daily basis is kind of a struggle. So
yeah, but trading is a peak performance sport, in my opinion. It's like, and especially when you trade the large capital, I like to compare like trading as, for example, if you are like Michael Jordan in the last minute and you have the ball. So when you trade big capital, I like to compare that with those moments. So you need to always be focused. So every day is one of those moments if you are a trader. So you need to be very, very focused every single day. And of course, life happens and sometimes we can't have control on that. So it's natural to not be on the flow every single day. So you don't need, of course, to trade every single day and to be 100% every single day. But in my opinion, as long as you can keep, for example, you have work and you have kids, as long as you can keep at least like 1-2 hours after kids going to sleep to work on trading, and that will give you, in my opinion, the momentum to that carry on. You have a good week, then that good week will give a good month, and a good month will give a good quarter, and a good quarter good year. So basically, is in my opinion is that. But yeah, it's quite difficult.
Yeah, there was I was going back through some of the coursework, and Matt was, really trying to get. There was one of his videos was talking about not looking at it week by week, but actually start stretching it out, looking at your performance over a quarterly performance, and that trying to shift that mindset because, I've been working as an employee for 20 years, and I look at my paycheck every 2 weeks, and so this year, it's been kind of a hard, it's been a little bit of a struggle to shift to look at a quarterly performance and stuff like that. So for me,
that's a big issue, and it's natural, happens to everyone. I personally don't have too much experience because I went all into trading after finish university, so I never had that mentality. But I can definitely see that can be a big issue. Something that maybe can help you is do you journal your trades every week, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. I personally, something that maybe can help you is maybe instead of tracking and focus on the percentage, is just simply imagine when you have your Notion template, focus on, is this trade met your trading plan? Yes or no? And if yes, for you, count as a win, and only see the percentage in the end of the quarter. I'm not sure if you can do that on Notion, but it's basically delete the percentage. Imagine that you have 1 to 5 or something, 1 to 10, and it's a win or a loss. I would personally just focus on, is this trade according to my trading plan? Because if I'm completely sure that if you put yes more often than no, in the end of the quarter, you will be in the positive. So I'm not sure, David, do you have anything to add? Or?
Well, the only thing I would say is like I'm quite fortunate. Like I have no wife or kids or anything, so I can pretty much do whatever I want all the time. But I think the biggest thing is to just be consistent. Like don't aim for perfection, just aim for consistency. Like if you can only do an hour, just do an hour consistently. Don't feel it's easy to fall into the trap thinking, oh, I want to do 6 hours a day. And if you haven't got that time, that just leads to you feeling guilty that you're not doing enough. Whereas if you just say, right, I'm going to do an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening when you have the kids or whatever, it's like just be consistent with that. It's like, perfection kills in trading, like, because obviously if you want a perfect strike rate, you're not going to execute enough, blah blah blah. And it's the same with like getting the work done. But that would be the one thing I'd say is just do what you can, just aim to do that rather than aim for perfection. And then like again, it's the little wins, the little milestones that add up. Like, if you win the day, you win the week, you win the month, as Tomas said, and then at the end of the year you're profitable. That would be the main sort of advice I would give.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate it, guys.
There's one. David, you mentioned last week that you spend 40 minutes per day prepare doing the markups. Is this markup you do for yourself, or does it take 40 minutes only because of what you do to post them for us? It's generally it's about 40 minutes to do EU and AU sort of pre-market, but to be honest, because I share the markups in Discord for you, just like I do have to put a bit more thought and a bit more sort of I have to sort of eloquate my thoughts a bit better, so it does take me a bit longer. But that's the big thing is I guess I'm sort of the poster boy for people trading two pairs in the community, and it's like I don't think people realize the amount of work that goes into doing like the proper, particularly when you're learning. Because I think that trading two pairs actually held me back more at start, because rather than completely digging into the price action one pair and looking at what happened, like what a price react to, just looking at every minuscule piece of price, no matter how insignificant, and seeing what happened there and trying to figure it all out. I think because I had two pairs, that sort of held me back a bit more, because it was a lot harder to do that. But yeah, I definitely I put a bit more time into them whenever, because I have to share them with yous. But that's sort of the main warning behind with them, is that it's a lot more work, and it's like two pairs definitely does not mean double the profit, and it does mean double the work if you're doing it right. So that's sort of where that came from. But yeah, I would encourage everyone to focus on one pair for at least whenever they're starting out, and then maybe whenever you're consistent, maybe if you're not taking as many trades in E, because like as you get better, it's almost like a filtration process. Like you're filtering out more of the bad trades, so you're taking fewer trades, and maybe when you get to that point, you might want to add in a second pair. But definitely if you're starting out, I would say, and especially if you're working, like I mean, if you're working or whatever, you just won't have time to spend that amount of time doing two pairs. That's sort of where that came from. So does anyone else have any questions? Or I've personally never used an Aura ring. I know what it is. It's like a ring for track and sleep, etc. But I've personally never used.
I've never used it as well.
I know Matt talked about getting one at one stage, but I don't know if he ever did. But it's all about like sleep's massive. I was a very bad sleeper for a long time, and it does massively affect your trading, because like when you have to be up early for London or whatever, it's like if it takes you half an hour, 40 minutes to wake up, it's going to negatively affect your trading. Like if you're not alert at 7 o'clock and you miss a trade, the plays out, and then like it costs you money. One thing that I would recommend is look into mouth taping and nasal breathing, because that's something that massively had me. I just tape my mouth shut at night with a bit of like adhesive tape, and it forces me to breathe in through my nose, and it's been an absolute game changer for me, because I wake up feeling fresh. Like I can get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, no problem now, whereas previously I used to struggle to get up at 6:30. So I would encourage you to look into that there. And then obviously an Aura ring's just a means of, you can track your, if you want to take a new supplement or try mouth tape and whatever, the Aura ring will obviously give you a better idea if it's working. But I have no experience with them, and neither does Tomas. So
yeah.
Yeah, it can happen, Mario. The question is, could it happen that sometimes the internal high low can be the same as the swing? Yeah, it can happen. Sometimes, particularly whenever you get a news announcement, whatever, they can be the same. But yeah, occasionally it does happen. So you're welcome, Tom. I'm only seeing your message there now. Anything else trading related or mindset related or life related, anything? No. Well, I think we'll call it a day there then, Tomas. I think that's all the questions answered.
Yeah, it was a pretty solid call, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, very good. Thanks very much for your time, guys, as always. So we'll leave it there.
Yeah.
I'll end this now. Thanks very much for coming, guys.
Thank you, guys.
It'll be uploaded to the website now if you want to watch it again. So I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye, guys.